8% mortgage rates. Sounds horrific. So in this video, let's talk about it. There is a rumour that we might get to 8% mortgage rates by the end of 2023. Now, I've got a remortgage personally due in May of 2024. So on this video, I'm going to give you my personal example of what it's going to mean to my costs and can I afford it. And also, we're going to talk about where a lot of people at the moment seem to be discussing this 35% market crash and almost relating it to 1990, 2008. And we're going to cowbosh that and talk about exactly why this market is not the same as those, but what this market's problems might bring. And in particular, what parts of the country are going to find it challenging and compared to other parts of the country. So the first thing I want to talk about is 8% mortgages. Now, at the moment, we've seen the last 6 weeks mortgages go from 3 point something up to probably 6 point something. So they've pretty much nearly doubled in the space of 4 to 6 weeks, which is bloody scary. Why has it happened? Well, we know the reason to that. We've seen the base rate go up and we've seen the banks brick it when it comes to what the future might bring with base rate increases as well. So interest rates are climbing, and I spoke to someone from Halifax this week who have highlighted that at the moment, every month they're looking at putting their rates up for the foreseeable, and they've actually started to adjust their calculator valuer as well. So they've got a desktop calculation device that every month for the next couple of months is going to be reducing the national average house price on their personal calculator, meaning the loan to value that you could potentially get on your property is going to reduce as well. So it sounds pretty scary. What does it mean for me? Well, I'm going to be really honest on this video and share my personal figures. So I've got a mortgage on my property of around £450,000 at the moment. I've got an interest rate which I've had for the best part of, well, it will be a 3-year fixed by May of next year. So the best part of 2.5 years. That interest rate is 1.54%. I'm paying just over £1,500 a month as a mortgage as it stands at the moment. What does it mean when I come to a remortgage if I had to get an 8% mortgage? Well, sounds scary to me, and I'm instantly thinking, well, I'm paying £1,500 a month at the moment. 8% compared to a 1.54% is going to be something horrific. 5 grand, 6 grand. What is it going to be? Well, the actual number when we run the calculator on it is that it's going to be just over £3,200. So it's over double what I'm paying now. In fact, it's a £1,700 increase on my monthly costs for the same loan on the same term in the same property, just because interest rates had gone up. Now, it might not be that I have to pay an 8% mortgage interest rate, but I'm looking at it worst case scenario at the moment, hoping that that would be worst case scenario. How do I afford that? Well, I'm going to have to cut some of the luxuries down. So that goes without saying. The family is going to have to cut some of the luxuries down. I'm potentially going to have to use savings where needed. And that's a really important point, because if we look back to pre-pandemic, what the HMRC reports are showing at the moment is, yes, there is way more money in the economy, but also most middle class families at the moment have got significantly more money in their savings than what they had pre-COVID. In fact, 3 times the amount of savings in general across the country is what sits in people's bank accounts, be it in stock shares, wherever it may sit. But there is 3 times more money in people's savings now in comparison to what it was back in 2020, 2019. So those are something that I'm going to have to tap into potentially. And of course, I need to earn more money. So I'm planning ahead for that now with my business. How do I increase turnover to bring in more household income to mitigate the cost of my mortgage going up? That's my personal circumstance. Now, across the UK, here's something that I think is really important and something I wanted to discuss on this particular video is regionally, as an estate agent at the moment, I'm seeing a drastic difference in area to area. And in particular, if you look at the home counties down the south, not as far as the south coast, but the home counties around the south, just to the side of London and whipping around the bottom of London, edging up towards Oxford, it's still a seller's market. There's still a shortage of property and buyer demand is still drastically higher than what the seller's stock sits at, which is quite interesting. And it's why if you talk to an estate agent in the home counties at the moment, they're still having it off when it comes to offers being agreed. However, if we look at the South Coast, and if we go north of Birmingham, including the Midlands, it's actually starting to change, or has changed, into a buyer's market. And at the moment, you're seeing those asking prices reduce, more withdrawals, more properties coming off market, an increase in fall-throughs, buyers and sellers pulling out, and price reductions on Rightmove. Constantly, every single property going through is pretty much a price reduction. So it's very different region to region. Although we always say location, 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 I do think that this market we're about to enter regionally is going to have more of an impact than what we've probably seen before, because of the amount of money in people's savings accounts, depending on what geographic location they're in, and because of the shortage of property and demand for those areas. I think we might see a bit of a difference. And when you actually allocate that to wage increases as well, there's relevance in there. So there's more money, the wages are increasing, and therefore the drop in asking prices is less significant in those home counties and edges of London compared to the rest of the country. So I think that's something that's really important to think about. Also, there's a huge shortage of supply for jobs at the moment as well. HMRC are reporting £1.1 million job voids at the moment. So there is definitely a gap, and employment levels are obviously fantastic, hence the wage rise is increasing. The other thing that's very different to 1990 and 2008 is rentals. There is a huge shortage of rental property at the moment, and as a result, tenancy levels, the values of those are increasing, way outstripping inflation, at 10.4, 10.5 year on year price increases on rentals. So to be a tenant and find a new property is bloody difficult, and you're going to pay through the odds on it. So if that means that tenants have got the ability to tap into the bank of mum and dad or their savings when they're earning more money, then it's going to be a much better circumstance for them to take advantage and buy at the moment in comparison to renting, especially if asking prices are neutralised, or if anything, like I think they will, fall somewhere between 3 and 5% this year. I would be taking advantage of that as a tenant. And we'd already seen the test water for some lenders where they're trying to bring options to bring tenancy mortgages into play as well. Now, although they've been pulled, potentially they may come back. There's also no incentives at the moment from the government. Stamp duty holidays, no. Help to Buy, no. And other incentives as well. So if we did start to see a turn in the market, will the government come in and just look at how they manipulate the media, the narrative, and will they actually bring some incentives into the property market to support it, like we've seen time and time again when it was needed? When they need to control the market, incentives have been brought in, and there's none at the moment. So bank of mum and dad, increase in wages, all of these things will have an impact. Will it stop prices dropping? Remains to be seen, but regionally I think not. I think some areas will stay stagnant and level, but I think a lot of the country, outside of the home counties and the edges of London, more than likely will see prices drop. And definitely if mortgage rates were averaging at 8% interest rates, there will be less demand than what there is at the moment across the country, it goes without saying. Wish me luck on my potential £1,700 a month increase. Scary to think about. Hopefully this video has raised some questions for people. If you want to know more about Avocado Property or have a conversation with myself, drop in the comments or use the links to get in contact with us via the website. See you next week.